other than why are you running this time, why have you spent so much time being on the council? I mean, what's kept you on there for all this time?
The biggest thing that's kept me on the council all this time is I have a real passion for environmental issues, and the biggest one that Farifield faces right now is sanitary sewer overflows in the city. Over the last 6 years, we have been operating under an administrative order in order to eliminate overflows from the city. We've done a pretty good job up to this point, but now the big major work needs to be taken care of. We're looking at revamping our sanitary sewer plant, which is south of Farifield, and adding a overflow lagoon out there as well. It's about a $17.5 million project that we're hoping to get started or let after the first of the year. We're currently in the process of letting a project for the transmission lines that go north from the treatment plant up to Lamson Woods, which is on the southeast corner of Farifield. Yep. That was considered to be step one of our program. The program is actually 5 steps in the transmission lines as well as the plant. And over that 6 to 7 year time period that it will take to complete these projects, the total price tag has been estimated to be about $40 million.
Okay. Let me ask you, it doesn't have to be problems, concerns. What are the 3 things that the new council is going to have to address as far as Fairfield that are the most important?
The 3 things that I see that we're going to have to address mostly are deficit spending. We've had a real problem here in the last few years of deficit spending where so many different community projects and so many different departments of the city have had leadership that have asked for things that we really haven't budgeted for. And in trying to cover those costs, we've used local option sales tax quite a little bit. We are right now at the maximum asking of $8.10 per thousand that a city is allowed to assess a homeowner. Now, the difference between the $8.10 and the $17.16 that we currently pay also includes any debt service money that we pay off through the year, any health insurance changes in coverage for all of the employees that we have, retirement benefits through IPERS and also the police, municipal, and fire, and other projects that seem to come up on the spur of the moment when a grant application is approved. Many times the application is for a specific amount, but it isn't quite enough to cover all expenses for it, so we need to come up with money in order to help do that. We're currently building a sidewalk on Jefferson that was given a $25,000 grant in order to be able to accomplish that, but bidding came in at a little over $27,000 to construct the sidewalk. So we have to come up with that money in order to be able to complete those types of projects. If they come in under, that's great because you don't have to use all of that grant money in order to build the sidewalk. Right. The problems come in where when you've been awarded these, you find out that maybe it isn't going to bid out as you want to see it bid out at a comfortable price. And as we know, lately a lot of things have risen in cost, and that's reflected back in the bids that the city gets for different projects that it's working on.
Let's go to this one then. As I know, the bond rating's been an issue over there. And that's one of those things that sounds terrible, terrible, terrible. And I'm not saying that, not suggesting that it's good or it's not a big deal, but that's one of those things that sounds a lot worse sometimes than it actually is. But it's certainly something that needs to be addressed.
Right.
And so, is that a matter of, I mean, you're already at your valuation, so, and basically the consultant told you that you got a revenue problem or a spending problem.
A spending problem, not a revenue problem, yes.
You know, but some combination of those. So where do you get, is it a cutting spending, but some of that's money that you're already committed to spending. So I guess what's the quickest way to get yourself out of that situation?
There is really no quick way to get out of it. The voters in Farifield are going to be asked to change the appropriation of the local option sales tax and how it's used. Currently there's an amount of about $200,000 annually that goes into the sewer fund to help defray costs that we've had with trying to upkeep and maintain our sewer system. That money hasn't been going to the full projects as of yet because we haven't really gotten on the roll with them. But it will divert the money from that so that it could be used for other reasonable and prudent projects. It's been discussed that that money should go into our fund balances, which is the reason that our bond rating has went down. The city's required to keep a specific amount on hand for different items such as debt service. You should have at least a 6 month to a year on hand in order to pay those bonds for that 1 year time period in case something major happens, a tornado wipes out part of the town, or you know, so that you can stay in business. Our problem is over the last 4 years we've went through 2 city administrators, one of which decided that it would be more prudent if we had one general fund and started incorporating all of those fund balances into one large pot. That isn't allowable in the state of Iowa. So we tried to dig through some of what happened during that time after we had gotten a couple of unfavorable reviews of our finances, our annual audit that goes on with all cities through the state. Our last administrator worked somewhat with that, but we weren't able to really do anything but sort back out where those funds went to and trying to bring them back to where they at least had zero balances in them. Some of them had negative balances for an extended period of time. The city bonded for approximately $1.9 million as a measure to try to bring back some of those fund balances, also to pay off debt levies that we've had for years from old projects that weren't finalized out and paid off. So that money pretty much doesn't quite get what needs to be done. At approximately $200,000 a year and the sunset on our local option sales tax ending in about 4 years, we're only going to bring in about $800,000, and we're still more than $1 million or more in deficit in these funds. So it's not really something that's going to solve our problem. It's going to help us move through them, but I see other projects that are going to come up that are going to want to take away from that $200,000. And unfortunately, the big word that's going to have to come from this next council is no. There's going to be several things that are proposed that I don't feel really need to be funded in that way from the local option sales tax. And there have been things in the past that I have seen that should not have been funded through local option sales tax, but was. So we're going to have to rethink on what we're doing. We have at least one contract employee that's paid with local option sales tax, and to pay for someone that's a contract to the city, that should definitely come from the general fund and not somewhere else. So those are the types of items that we're going to need to look at.
Do you feel like at least you're headed in the right direction now, or do you?
I believe the mindset of people that come up to me believes that if we don't change what we're doing, that they feel that there's some catastrophe ahead for the city.
Okay. All right. Housing. especially for, let's say, moderate income housing. Is that an issue? Or
It is. The housing market recently in Fairfield has shown that houses are being sold over the assessed value. And a lot of the homes that are sold over the assessed value are ones that are higher end homes in the community. And in turn, what happens is that brings everything else up slightly with it. Our problem is we have a very large gap between our higher end homes and our very low income type homes. We don't have that middle market, really. We do need to have some expansion for housing that way, and we've had a developer approach us about revitalizing the area behind where the new Pilot Grove Savings Bank was built on the south side of town, heading off to the east from there. We've already began construction on a new street arterial that goes down to the east. It's called Lincoln, and it will help bring the traffic down through that direction. We're just right now trying to finalize how that's going to work out.
But certainly that's something that if you're going to grow, you're going to have places.
We're going to have places for people to be able to do that. Another area that we're looking at growing is to the west of the hospital. Healthcare industry has grown tremendously in the last few years, and we see a lot of growth coming in that market for the next few years. We would like to see more of the land annexed into the city down in that area so that we can have expansion with businesses that are in the medical field, medical profession. We're adding new sanitary sewer down in that area to accommodate along Libertyville Road, existing houses that are already there, plus new construction that could come in the future. With infrastructure put in place, that usually is a good indicator that businesses are going to look at you a little bit more because you're providing something to them that they're going to ultimately need, and they will look at that as an incentive.
It's easy to get bogged down sometimes in things that are wrong, especially when you're in elections campaigning. There's a lot of things that we need to change. What are some things that are going right in Fairfield? What are some of the community's assets? I mean, what is it about Fairfield that you could sell to, maybe not even to outsiders, but maybe sometimes you even need to sell it to the people in the town themselves, that, hey, look, these are things that are really going well for us?
Well, excuse me, we have quite a few things that are working for the city of Fairfield. They do need some tweaking in order to make them run a little more smoothly. One of the assets that I feel that we have, of course, is our Sondheim Center, Civic Center. There is some difficulty right there, right now, with how operations are running, but it's still a positive direction, and I still believe that what's in place with the agreement that the city has will continue to work or work more smoothly in the future. We're in the process of building a 3-gym floor gymnasium at the Roosevelt Rec Center over on Burlington. We just opened up this last summer a brand new outdoor pool. We were without an outdoor pool for about 2.5 years. Our existing pool that we had, our previous one, was in O.B. Nelson Park on the south side of town. And after 45, 50 years, it had reached its life expectancy, and we were faced with having to put in something new. By moving it over to the rec center, we were able to save some money on the facility itself because you don't have to put in locker space and restrooms and concession areas that are already available to be used at the current rec center. That was a smart move by the committee, I believe, and in the long run I think people will see that even more. We also have a myriad of activities that go on all the time in the city of Fairfield to try to draw people to the community. I spoke to a couple at a recent car show that we had over in Fairfield that had just moved to the city, and one of the main reasons they moved there was because of the trail system that's around town. We do have a very premier type trail to be able to use, and it's maintained very well by mostly volunteers. So that's a huge asset that any community can have. Our new hospital on the south side of town was another tremendous asset that was relocated from another place in the city to a larger area that wouldn't conflict with how neighborhood traffic moved through the area where the hospital was at to where it is now. There are some small things that need to be tweaked down in that area for traffic control, but I think we're moving in the right direction for that. The city of Fairfield overall, I believe, has a very positive outlook. It's getting it to move in that direction that can bog things down. So.
Okay. Anything that I didn't ask that you feel you would like to address? Open it up.
Well, one of the questions that always comes up with me is the financial situation, and we touched on it just briefly about how the bond rating that we have does look very dire from the outside, but with trying to regain those fund balances, we'll be able to bolster what Moody's looks at for that particular rating. Those ratings change often, just as Travis Squires from Ehlers and Cooney came and discussed with us that they relook at how those are done. I believe that if we control more of what spending is actually taking place on some of the little things, we can actually bring our budget more back into line. One area I really feel troubled with, and I know that it's a big item for the city of Fairfield, is the Park and Rec department. After the new gym is opened up, it's projected that we're going to be spending more than 40% of the entire city budget on our Park and Rec. And to be manageable and sustainable, that needs to be down into the 30 to 35% range of your entire budget.
That 40%.
It is. When you look at overall budgets, your police department is always going to be the largest budget that you deal with the city. Then you're going to have fire and then transportation. They should be pretty much in that order as you go down the list. But in our case, we've skewed recreation so much to wanting it to add and augment our community that that budget has gotten fairly big. And we need to look at how we can trim some of that back. And we have yet to realize how much it's actually going to cost us to staff and maintain the new facilities that are there. The first year of the pool, of course, was fantastic because we had a pool again after 2.5 years. And people come out, love it. But as we see with a restaurant opening or a business opening, you get a big crush at the beginning where everybody wants to be there and wants to be included in it. And then as time goes on, that begins to wane. So you start getting into more realistic numbers of what you're actually going to get a return on from your facility. So we need to examine those a little bit more. And it's going to take a little time. It's going to take a little data to get us to where we know what it's going to cost for those expenses.